My parents gaslit me into believing my sister was insane. It took nearly losing my own life to realize she was the only one who ever fought for me. Growing up in Indiana as the youngest child, I learned quickly that the safest thing I could do was remain silent. My sister, Maddie, was different. She never hesitated to call out our father's cruelty, no matter the cost. To me, Maddie's bravery seemed reckless, inviting trouble rather than protecting us from it. One incident on our family trip to Florida remains etched in my mind. I was 13, my brother Lucas was 14, and Maddie had just turned 16. We were about to head to the beach, and I was wearing my favorite denim shorts. Dad glanced at me, lightly slapped my thigh, and remarked that I was putting on weight. At that point, I was barely a size 0. Mortified, I shot Maddie a pleading look, silently begging her not to react. She almost complied until Dad tugged roughly at the hem of my shorts and growled, "Cover yourself up." That was the tipping point. Maddie exploded. "What did you just say to her?" she demanded, glaring at our parents. Mom immediately jumped in, desperately trying to hush Maddie, afraid she'd ignite Dad's rage. But Maddie wouldn't back down. Within seconds, the whole family was shouting at her, calling her a troublemaker, accusing her of destroying our peace. My voice was loudest of all, parroting our parents' accusations, desperate to show that I was the obedient child. I cringe at the memory now, but at that moment, I genuinely believed it was Maddie's fault, that her refusal to stay silent was what disrupted our family's fragile peace. My brother Lucas coped differently. He plastered an indifferent smirk on his face, pretending he didn't care. But Dad saw right through him, shifting his anger toward Lucas, too. That night, Maddie slept protectively between us, her presence a barrier against a threat none of us wanted to acknowledge. As we got older, the abuse intensified, and Lucas changed drastically. Once sweet and caring, he grew bitter and angry, mirroring our father's aggression. Maddie alone refused to bend, stubbornly speaking out, while I withdrew further into my fear and silence. This toxic dynamic continued until Maddie's senior year of high school. It was the night before her SAT exam, and tensions were high at dinner. Maddie asked Lucas, a little too sharply, to stop chewing with his mouth open. Lucas immediately snapped back. "You're just mad because you know you're going to fail that stupid test and be a loser forever." Maddie stood abruptly, tears streaming down her face, and ran to her room. Dad's fury filled the house instantly, screaming that Maddie had ruined dinner yet again. I sat numbly in the kitchen, texting Maddie harshly, asking why she always had to make everything worse. After that incident, Maddie started vanishing. She spent nights at friends' houses, coming home less and less. In my mind, she had abandoned us. I never reached out again, bitterly blaming her absence for our family's escalating chaos. Only when Maddie was no longer around did I realize how much she had shielded me from our father's wrath. With Maddie gone, I became the new target. Dad barked orders constantly, finding fault with every little thing I did. Lucas became untouchable, feared even by our father. Maddie would occasionally show up, fighting with our parents, but at the time, I saw her as an annoyance rather than my protector. Everything came crashing down one afternoon when Dad erupted because Lucas had carelessly thrown his wet laundry onto Mom's dry clothes. Dad screamed at Lucas, his voice shaking the walls, and then suddenly yelled my name. As soon as I entered the living room, he unleashed his anger, shouting that I was worthless and that it was my job to keep my brother in line. Before I could even process his words, he shoved me violently, sending me tumbling over the coffee table. Pain shot through my entire body, and tears filled my eyes. When I tried to stand, he kicked the back of my knees, knocking me down again. Terrified, I crawled away and fled to the bathroom, locking myself inside. Shaking, I dialed the only person I could think of, Maddie. Her soft voice soothed my nerves, comforting me as I sat on the cold tile floor. Just as I began to feel safe, Dad's voice cut through again, demanding that I return and clean up. I hung up abruptly and obeyed, fear tightening around my chest like a vice. 20 minutes later, Maddie silently entered the house with her tall, muscular boyfriend, Tyler. Without hesitation, she took my trembling hand and led me out. Within moments, we were sitting in a small apartment I didn't even know Maddie had rented. I tucked myself into bed while Maddie gently asked me to explain what happened. I couldn't. All I wanted was to forget, to focus on the Halloween party I'd been looking forward to for weeks. She nodded understandingly and ordered us McDonald's, respecting my silence. For that night, things felt normal. But the next morning, reality came crashing back. Mom bombarded me with messages, convincing me that Maddie had poisoned my mind and torn our family apart. Feeling guilty, I returned home. But the instant I stepped through the front door, Dad's hand connected violently with my face, and everything went black. Stars exploded behind my eyes as I collapsed, tasting blood. Lying there, consciousness returning slowly, something inside me finally snapped. With newfound clarity, I whispered defiantly, "I'm leaving." Maddie stood there with tears in her eyes, steady but gentle. She simply replied, "Good. We have to do this right. Pack lightly, only what's essential. We go Friday." My heart pounded as I absorbed her words. This wasn't a game, it was our escape. Friday. I repeated, my voice stronger than I'd ever imagined. But what happened next? Nobody could have seen coming, and it would change everything forever. By Monday, I started counting down the days like they were breaths. 3 more. 3 more mornings to endure that house. I rehearsed my lie, an overnight group project at my friend Tara's house. It was thin, but believable enough. We weren't close, but our moms had exchanged pleasantries at a school open house once. That tiny memory would be my alibi. Each step that week was planned with military precision. On Tuesday, I slipped my birth certificate out of the filing cabinet while Mom was in the laundry room, pretending I was just looking for a charger. The paper felt fragile, like it might crumble under the weight of what it meant. I tucked it between 2 sketchbooks in my room. Next came the recordings. I'd found Maddie's old iPod buried under some old yearbooks. Small, outdated, and perfect for slipping into a hoodie pocket. I covered the red recording light with duct tape and began recording whenever Dad lost it. His voice booming, his threats sharp as broken glass. Once, he called me a deadweight parasite. Another time, he slammed a plate so hard against the sink it shattered. Each clip was a scar made audible. I kept my cool at school, asked my English teacher, Mrs. Cantor, if she could be a reference for a summer internship. She smiled warmly, adjusted her glasses, and said, "Of course, Rachel. You've always been one of my brightest students." Her words made my chest ache, somehow both comforting and unbearably sad. It was the first time in a while someone said something kind to me without expecting anything in return. That night, I told myself, 2 more days. On Wednesday, Lucas barely looked at me. His silence had become its own kind of threat. Once, he would have tossed a blanket over me if I fell asleep on the couch. Now he passed by without a word, earbuds in, jaw clenched. He was always angry, like he didn't know what to do with all the rage he'd absorbed. I hated him for that. But I also remembered the boy he used to be, the one who made me laugh by sticking breadsticks up his nose during Olive Garden dinners. I didn't know if I was more heartbroken or angry. That night, I packed bit by bit. A pair of jeans, my favorite hoodie, a photo strip from a middle school carnival Maddie and I had snuck into, $52 from birthday cards and spare change, hidden in a sock. Every item chosen with care, like I was assembling an identity I could carry on my back. Thursday night, I didn't sleep. Every sound in the house, the floorboards, the wind rattling the window panes, felt like a trapdoor creaking open beneath me. What if Dad woke up and checked my room? What if I slipped up, left a clue? My stomach twisted itself into a knot I couldn't undo. But by morning, a strange calm settled over me. I went through the motions, ate my cereal, cleaned the dishes, pretended to text friends while actually deleting messages and clearing browser history. At dinner, I mentioned my science project. With Tara, kept my eyes down, my voice even. Mom narrowed her eyes. "Which Tara is this?" My heart skipped. I smiled tightly. "Tara Chong. You met her mom at the fall fundraiser? The one who brought the homemade dumplings?" Her expression flickered. Recognition, or maybe just enough plausibility to pass. "Be back by noon tomorrow. You have laundry." Dad didn't even look up from his recliner. At 6:30 p.m., I slipped out with my backpack slung casually over one shoulder. I didn't look back. I didn't give anyone a reason to pause me. The moment I turned the corner, I ran. My feet hit the pavement with the urgency of someone who'd held her breath for too long. My lungs burned, but I didn't stop. At exactly 7 o'clock, Maddie's car rolled up beside me. She didn't say anything at first, just reached across and popped the door open. The familiar smell of her citrus perfume washed over me, grounding me. I slid in, and the second the door shut, she hit the gas. The tires squealed lightly, as if even the car knew we were running from something dangerous. "Anyone see you leave?" she asked, glancing at me, then the rearview mirror. "No," I whispered, though I couldn't stop glancing behind us. "We're not going to my old place," she said. I moved. Keycard entry. Private security. No one gets in unless I let them. I blinked. "When did you plan all this?" Maddie's grip tightened on the wheel. "While you were surviving, I was building a way out." Her voice cracked slightly on that last word, and I saw it. How much it had cost her to stay strong for so long. We rode in silence, the car humming beneath us like a heartbeat. She parked in front of a nondescript brick building tucked between two laundromats. It looked ordinary, but to me, it was everything. Up 3 flights, a narrow hallway, and then we were in her apartment. Small, bare bones, but clean. No shouting voices. No smashed plates. Just a quiet that felt sacred. "You take the bedroom," she said, tossing my bag onto the neatly made bed. "I'll crash on the couch." "I can't." "You will," she cut in firmly. "I work nights. I'm not even here half the time. You need a door you can lock." For the first time in my life, I had a door that meant safety, not isolation. That night, I fell asleep to the hum of her typing in the living room, the refrigerator humming quietly, and the occasional passing car. No footsteps, no yelling, just the kind of silence that didn't make you flinch. But the peace was short-lived. At 10:07 a.m. the next morning, my phone buzzed so violently on the nightstand it knocked over my water bottle. Dozens of texts, all from Mom. "Where are you? Tara's mom says you never showed up. You better answer me right now. Your father is furious." My hands trembled as I showed Maddie. "Turn it off," she said gently. We knew this part was coming. I stared at the screen one more time and typed a single reply. "I'm safe. I'm not coming back." Then I powered it off. But what came next? That I wasn't ready for. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. It started as a low hum, like a wasp circling your head. At first, I thought I imagined it. The silence after I turned off my phone had felt almost holy. But by sunset, that stillness shattered. The first voicemail came through Maddie's phone. "Mom." Her voice a mess of sobs and rage. "How could you do this to us? What did we ever do but try to raise you right?" Click. Then another. "I can't sleep knowing you're out there with her. She's poisoned you. She's always been a problem." Click. Then Dad's. "If you don't come home, Rachel, I swear, this will be the biggest mistake of your life. Both of you will regret this." The chill in his voice cut through the warmth of Maddie's apartment like ice water down my back. Click. Maddie didn't flinch. She deleted them all with a calm so cold it scared me. Like this wasn't the first time she'd heard threats like that. Her finger hovered over the delete button after Dad's message, her jaw tight. Then, click. Done. The next morning, I did what I swore I wouldn't. I turned my phone on. Just for a second. A text from Lucas popped up immediately. "Don't expect anything from us when he dies." No context. No explanation. Just those words. It took me a moment to breathe again. I showed Maddie. Her face didn't change, but I saw it. The way she bit her bottom lip, eyes narrowing just slightly. A flicker of doubt. "Dad used to do this when I was your age," she said finally. "Said his heart would give out if I didn't behave. Claimed he had chest pain when I wanted to go to homecoming. Remember that?" I nodded, the memory snapping into focus like a Polaroid. He'd clutched his chest in front of the TV because Maddie had asked to stay out past 9. We'd all panicked. Mom begged her to cancel. Maddie cried in her room that whole night. But now I saw it for what it was, control. Still, a part of me wondered, what if this time it was real? That Monday, Maddie came with me to enroll in school. She used her address and said she was my legal guardian. No one blinked. I was just another name on a form, another kid with a transfer slip and no explanation. The school was bright and unfamiliar. The hallways echoed too much. No one knew me, and I didn't know them. It should have been a relief, but instead I felt untethered, like a balloon that had finally escaped, only to float aimlessly into the clouds. What if they find me? I asked Maddie on the way home. We passed a group of kids playing soccer in a park. A girl about my age was laughing, hair streaming behind her like a ribbon. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "They might," Maddie said. "But they'd have to admit why you left. And they don't want anyone asking those kinds of questions." That logic made sense. It didn't stop me from flinching every time I saw a car that looked like Dad's. Then the second wave came. Texts, calls, emails. Not from my parents, but from everyone else. Aunts I hadn't seen in years. Neighbors. Church ladies who used to compliment my choir solos. They all said the same thing in different fonts. Your mom is heartbroken. Your father says you ran away with some boy. Your sister brainwashed you. You need to come home before it's too late. My stomach twisted reading them. The lies were spreading like wildfire. The narrative was out there, already burning down the truth. Maddie watched me scroll through them, her face like stone. They're trying to get ahead of it, she said. Rewrite the story before we can tell it. No one asked what had really happened. No one asked if I was safe. And for a moment, I believed them again. Maybe I was the villain in their story. Maybe Maddie had ruined everything. The programming ran that deep. Then Maddie said something I'll never forget. Show me the recordings again. The words were quiet, but sharp, like a key in a lock. I handed her the iPod. She hit play. Dad's voice filled the tiny apartment like a virus. You stupid little parasite. I should have left you in the hospital. Then the thud. Me hitting the table. My scream. Mom's voice, flat and cold. Clean up your own blood. I turned away. I couldn't watch Maddie listen to that. I didn't want her to see the look on my face when I heard myself cry. But when the recording ended, she looked at me, eyes wet, but burning with fire. People will believe this. We just have to be smart. We started with Aunt Lisa, Mom's younger sister. She lived 3 states away, only saw us at holidays, but had once slipped me a $20 when Dad refused to give me lunch money. We sent her a short message. No drama, just facts. 1 audio clip. The next morning, she replied, I always knew something was off. What do you need? That tiny thread of support, it changed everything. We sent more messages. To Margaret, Mom's old friend who once told me, quietly, you don't have to be afraid of your dad. To Uncle Brett, who had once pulled Dad aside at a family barbecue after he screamed at Lucas for dropping a burger bun. To Maddie's old high school counselor, who had seen her come in crying one too many times. Some didn't respond. Some sent one-line condolences. But a few, just enough, offered help. Money. A spare room. Resources. Not everyone was like them. And for the first time, I wondered, what if we weren't the broken ones? What if we'd always been the sane ones, just surrounded by people determined to convince us otherwise? But we had no idea what would happen next, because our parents weren't going down quietly. And the next twist would shake us to the core. A knock on the door. A slurred voice. And everything we'd built, every inch of safety, was about to be tested. The knock wasn't just a knock. It was a war drum. It came at 9:43 p.m. on a Thursday. We were halfway through reheating leftover stir-fry, watching reruns of The Office and pretending, just for one night, that we were normal, that we weren't fugitives from our own family. Then the pounding began. Not the polite kind. Not even the angry landlord kind. This was different. Rhythmic. Violent. Like someone trying to punch their way through the door. My fork clattered onto the plate. Maddie froze, eyes darting toward the door. Her hand reached for her phone before her feet even moved. Who is it? She called out, her voice calm, too calm. A pause. Then came the voice that snapped every bone in my spine in half. Open this door, Rachel. Now. My father. Slurred. Loud. Furious. I couldn't move. My breath caught in my throat like a scream that couldn't escape. Maddie grabbed her phone and dialed, her voice low and urgent. My legs backed away from the door instinctively, toes curling against the cool kitchen tile. I know you're in there. You think you can hide from me? The walls shook with every bang. It was him. Not a hallucination. Not a dream. He had found us. How did he? How did he even know where? I whispered, my words tangled in panic. Maddie's eyes never left the door. Roy, she said bitterly. I saw him in the grocery store last week. He must have told. Cousin Roy, Dad's old drinking buddy. Of course. Loyalty before logic. The banging intensified. He was throwing his whole body against the door now, screaming slurs, demanding I show myself, calling Maddie every name in the book, every name he used to hurl at her when no one else was around. Coward, liar, manipulator. The lock rattled, the hinges groaned. The whole doorframe seemed to breathe in and out with each impact. I imagined it splintering open, his boots across the threshold, his hand in my hair. Maddie didn't flinch. She spoke softly into her phone, giving our address. He's drunk, threatening, trying to force entry. I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but the way her posture relaxed ever so slightly told me they were on their way. He was still screaming when the building manager arrived. His voice was a flashlight in the dark hallway. Then, another knock. A calm one this time. "Sir, you need to step away from the door." More voices. Police. Footsteps. Raised tones. A scuffle. Then silence. Thick, unnerving silence. We waited, frozen in place. A softer knock came a moment later. "He's gone," the building manager said. Police escorted him off the property. Issued a trespass warning. "You girls okay?" His voice cracked something in me. The kindness, the utter lack of menace. It broke the dam I didn't realize was full. I nodded, tears streaming down my cheeks. Maddie thanked him, her voice steady but strained. When the door shut again, we collapsed onto the floor. The adrenaline had nowhere to go. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My entire body felt like it had absorbed his voice like a sponge. He had found us. He had come to our door. That night, we packed. Again, one duffel bag each. Essentials only. We didn't talk about what had happened. Not directly, but every now and then, I'd catch Maddie glancing at me while I folded my hoodie or zipped a bag. She was scared too. The next morning, we moved to a different part of the city. Smaller apartment. Deadbolt. Peephole. Cash deposit. The landlord didn't ask questions. I kept checking my phone. Every time I turned it on, a new wave of horror rolled in. More messages. Some from numbers I didn't recognize. One from a mutual friend saying my mom had told everyone I was hospitalized with a mental breakdown. That Maddie had kidnapped me. The lies had reached critical mass. Their reputation was crumbling, and they were clawing at every piece of fiction they could throw into the fire. 2 days later, a new voicemail appeared. From Evan. "You were right," he said. Just 3 words. Sent at 2:17 a.m. I stared at it for a long time. For a second, just a second, I wanted to respond. To ask if he was okay. If he needed help. I remembered the version of Evan who used to cover us with blankets. Who used to say we looked like princesses when we fell asleep on the couch. But I also remembered the boy who screamed at Maddie over a dinner plate. The boy who laughed when Dad slapped me. Who called me pathetic when I cried. I deleted the message. No reply. Maybe one day I'd forgive him. But not while the wounds still bled. I started therapy soon after that. Maddie helped cover the costs, and I picked up a job at a secondhand bookstore to cover the rest. The quiet helped. The smell of pages. The routine of restocking and recommending. It gave me something to anchor myself to. I started sleeping more than 3 hours at a time. I stopped flinching when someone raised their voice. One night, while washing dishes, Maddie looked at me and said, "You stand taller now. You make eye contact." It was true. The girl I had been, mouse-like, trembling, always apologizing, she was fading. Slowly, but surely. I smiled and said, "I learned from the best." She blushed, flicking water at me with a dishcloth. The nightmares hadn't stopped entirely. But now, when I woke up gasping, I knew I wasn't alone. I'd escaped the war zone. But I also knew it wasn't over yet. Because we had publicly exposed them. And if I knew anything about my father, it was this. He never let anyone win quietly. And the next move, whatever it was coming. I should have known the quiet wouldn't last. It was a Saturday. Exactly 1 year since I'd walked out of that house and into Maddie's car. 1 year since I stopped being a ghost in my own life. She made cupcakes that night. Boxed mix, neon pink frosting, one crooked candle in the middle. "To freedom," she toasted, raising her spoon like a wine glass. We laughed. And then, the next morning, a knock. Not like before. Not violent. Just persistent. 3 short raps. A pause. Then again. I froze. Maddie peeked through the peephole, her body stiff. Her eyes narrowed. "It's a woman," she said. "Older. Holding a folder." A beat passed. Then she added, "Looks like a caseworker." My heart dropped into my stomach. We opened the door cautiously, chain still on. The woman smiled, soft, patient, the kind of face that seen too much and learned to stay calm through all of it. "Rachel Lewis?" she asked, eyes flicking to me. I nodded. "My name's Natalie. I'm from Child and Family Advocacy Services. Can I come in?" Maddie unlatched the chain. We stepped aside. Natalie entered slowly, like she was trying not to spook us. She sat down at the kitchen table, set down her folder, and said the words that flipped my stomach inside out. Your parents have filed a formal petition for custody restoration. They're claiming you were coerced, manipulated, and abducted. I laughed. It just slipped out. I couldn't help it. Like some part of my brain cracked wide open. Like the absurdity of it was too much to contain. They're the ones who... I started, but Maddie put a hand on mine. Natalie held up a calm palm. I've reviewed your case file. I've listened to the audio. I've read your statement and your social media posts. She leaned in slightly. I'm not here to take you away. I'm here because I think we should consider filing a protection order. Your parents have been escalating behind the scenes. They're talking to lawyers. There's a chance this ends up in court. My breath caught. Court. Testifying. Seeing them again. Natalie read my face. I know it's scary, but you have more support than you think. Your teachers have written letters. So have some extended family members. What you've shared publicly, it's powerful. She slid a document across the table. If you sign this, it starts the process. Temporary order first, then permanent. It makes it harder for them to contact you or show up again. I stared at the paper. A line, a pen, a signature that could finally draw the boundary they'd never respected. I signed it. Natalie smiled, packed up, and promised to keep us in the loop. After she left, the house felt still, like something had shifted again. We didn't talk much that afternoon. Maddie and I curled up on the couch, half watching a movie, our hands occasionally brushing the popcorn bowl. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. One new comment on the post I'd written months ago, the voice they couldn't silence. It read, I'm in my bedroom right now. My dad's passed out drunk. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm scared, but you gave me the push I needed. I sat there, staring at it, the glow of the screen lighting my tear-filled eyes. Maddie woke up, saw me shaking, and whispered, What is it? I showed her. She read it. Nodded. That's why we do it, she said. That's why we keep going. The protection order was granted 3 weeks later. My parents didn't even show up to the hearing. Their lawyer filed a weak objection, but the judge dismissed it after hearing the evidence. Just like that, they lost legal access to me. Permanently. No more custody threats. No more visits. Just silence. Real silence. No more fists against doors. No more threats echoing down hallways. Just us, rebuilding. Brick by brick. Evan didn't reach out again. But I heard from Aunt Dorothy. She said Evan left home. Moved to a friend's couch out of state. Maybe finding his own version of escape. Maddie got promoted. I graduated high school early. Got a scholarship to a college 1 city over. We stayed in touch every day. Called. Texted. Visited. But I lived on my own now. In an apartment I picked. With a lock only I had the key to. Sometimes I still caught myself listening for footsteps outside my door. But when they came, they were the neighbors. Or the mailman. Or a friend bringing Thai food. Normal. One night, I took out the old iPod. The one I used to record my father's rages. I deleted everything. Every clip. Every file. Not because I was denying what happened, but because I didn't need it to prove I'd survived. My existence was proof enough. That weekend, I wrote a follow-up to my original post. A new story. One about rebuilding. About the quiet joy of safety. About sitting on the floor eating takeout and laughing until your ribs hurt. About trusting your voice. About sisters who become safe harbors. I titled it The House We Built from Ashes. It went viral in 2 days. People shared it, quoted it, sent messages like, I thought I was alone. I want to be like Maddie. You're giving me hope. That's all I ever wanted. To be the voice I once needed. And 1 year later, I am. Not because they gave me permission, but because I took it back. Because I chose freedom. Because I lived.